Yep, guys. Bitcoin, and Bitcoin again. There were a number of things that saw us at our maximum leverage long last night as a community. There was a lot of discussion. I mentioned a key moment coming for Bitcoin that I'm in it. It went straight through all our trade leaders. Key moment on crypto, that was at 9:23 p.m. last night. And I dragged all the guys into the crypto general room, and there was a key reason why. There were actually a number of reasons why. We have both our investment clock, which we've been 100% invested in largely since the first setup in a new trend, aka it is a green light. You have the red light, the yellow, and the green. It is a complete green light bull long for crypto. So we've been 100% invested during that period, which has been awesome in of itself. It's made sure we didn't lose Bitcoin value. We've been watching the Bitcoin dominance, and apart from a little foray into looking at Litecoin, where we quickly realized we were wrong and the alts weren't moving, we've been almost all Bitcoin because of the Bitcoin dominance chart, which I've continued to assert. I've even given that away for free, but the difference is if you're not in a community, you don't understand the reason why. Even if I tell you absolutely everything, which I'm surely not, you're not going to understand the key relevance of it. And here was an example where I was saying the Bitcoin dominance chart, but I've actually said it's the most important chart for this bull market many times before, even when it initially broke. If we take a look at that chart share, even when that initially broke down here by that green line, that's going to be the defining aspect. Why? Because everybody wants alts. They want the mega pumps of an alt, without realizing that if it's new money, institutional money, money that's getting real serious in there, it wants liquidity. It wants to go into the 200 billion plus market cap coin, not the 8 billion, not the 2 billion, not that. Why? Because they're putting in 7-digit sums. They need to be able to get out and not get slipped. So that's why that's been one of the most critical charts. So anyway, at 9:23, we'd been observing what has actually been a buy the dip market. Yes, we've actually been calling it and discussing it. You buy these sell dips. And that's not normally what I call a strategy, but we're expecting a key element to have occurred. We had a complete void on the macro of the charts in the volume by price from when you get to 11.5 all the way up. We're not through it yet. Yes, you're getting something that's still current and still valued through to 14.5k. And that doesn't mean it's going to stop. I say 14.5, 13.5, it starts to thicken slightly, and then 14, but you'll have a bit of overshoot to the low 14s, maybe mid 14s. So you're here, you only currently made a high of about 12.89. These lines, by the way, come from other previous events of history on the downside. I'll show you that volume by price void meant that when you broke 11.5, you would be sucked up with great momentum. So we were 100% leveraged for what should have been the safest ride. And people said, but there's no volume here. And so the volume suddenly came, and you got parabolic, but also it never needed to be huge because your volume profile illustrated that you cleared those levels in a FOMO type fashion on the way up, but it went even further. The other benefit we have is that we scenario costed and are forward looking. So we're net bullish. We chose a key moment and said when that level runs, you're absolutely doing it. We looked for a setup that also formed as a wind up that was an ascending setup that would overperform. So let's just look, instead of at Bitfinex, which had a slightly bigger dip here, let's look at, I think that one's Coinbase, for example. That is a more normal Coinbase, not quite as big, an ascending setup structure, which in the right circumstances, normally a danger and can fizzle on you, but in the right circumstances, those same circumstances being the aspect that we had a huge mooning period and the volume by price gave us a hollowed out vacuum and void place area zone that you are now entering between these gray lines. That's the 11.5 through to the 13,995, and also includes slowing a bit thicker at 13.5, but up to 14k, still very low. So I'm anticipating further suction up through here. That doesn't mean for you that's a charge in long right now, because it could get more volatile. We've made our target. We got in early. We got in at 11.5. We made our target, and we actually took some of our size off so that emotionally you can relax, go out, drive. It might chop and swing around. Remember, it's getting slightly more parabolic, but note it is still not as parabolic as that. Many people will say, oh, this is a parabolic advance now, you should be getting out, you should be getting out. Our overall modeling says, whilst we wouldn't want a marginally higher high, that means you're going higher than 20k. So that's one scenario that says there's more to come. Our overall bull scenario says we probably have one of our, and this is not super high probability, it's us just saying there's a three-way direction this goes. You could just continue to pump right past the 20k with no continuation patterns, nothing at all. Strength, go parabolic and run and run and run. Or what could actually happen is you top out. And if you top out, you form a mega type structure. Now, I don't think we've got the time for this. I do think that this option, number one, just keep pushing in a really strong, getting ever more parabolic state through 20,000 is quite a strong option. But if we were to top out before the previous high, remember, many people remember that number with some pain, wishing they got out. So that is scar tissue in a lot of technical traders' brain, but there's lots of new money that wasn't part of that. So that's why this number one is an option. But if you do top out, our guesstimation is starting from the 14. You'll overrun the 14 slightly, so somewhere in the 14s, 14.5 to in and around the 19 range. That tells you while you're sitting at 12.5, we feel that there will be more. We could be wrong. You could get a shooting star and have a substantial pullback and then set up again to then get into that range as well. So, you know, that doesn't mean you just keep going the whole way, but I can say the volume by price here is very, very small. That means there's not a great of historical resistance, and typically these zones are pulled through, and you went almost 50%. We had the same conclusion we had to apply on a very strong volume by price histogram over here when we'd eaten our way halfway through it, and we were doing it with some gusto. We had to conclude this thing's going to go smash bang right through, treat it as support and build from there, and that's exactly what happened. We'll see what happens here. My guesstimation is, all those lines such a mess, is that we probably go through 14 as part of this move. So whilst there's been some selling there, I'm not going to be too scared. We held on to our overperformance potential, so we are 100% invested, and we were red line fully leveraged at the key moment of the break at 11.3, and we took some of that pressure, that emotional pressure that keeps you looking at the device off, but are still leveraged longs at the moment. So not only is Bitcoin gaining, we are gaining our Bitcoin valuation. Everything is about Bitcoin valuation once you've determined the bull. First upside setup over here with overperformance proved that we were in the bull. The light switched to green, he says, while drawing it in red, coloring it in, saying green, therefore we bias long, and therefore we are looking for probably somewhere between that 14, 14.5 and 19, which doesn't mean it's going to be a straight line journey, but we expect to go through the other side of this at least as one of our key probabilities before we pull back, churn a little, and maybe set up again to get into this range before having a longer sit. And as I say, one of the other higher probability options is you just keep trucking and we set new highs without any requirement for pause and pullback on the bigger time frames. There's going to be plenty pullbacks, smackdowns, etc. So that is the game of Bitcoin. Kept the community up late last night, went to bed at about 3 in the morning. Extremely worthwhile. This is what we do. Even if you knew every little aspect of our theory, which you don't, because we don't discuss it all on YouTube, you would not have been able to do this for yourself, because it's experience at recognizing key moment events as well and what might be. and how they should be played, and having multiple eyes on the front. And that is the value of community. That's why people go to themarketsniper.com and they say, you know what? It costs X, and that's an investment because I made Y, and Y I wouldn't have made if I wasn't in this community around experienced hand people. The people you speak to if you book a call are experienced 2.5+ year HVF traders that are working with me because they love trading and because they love HVF method. Everybody who is part of our little business is someone who truly assesses this is the best way to trade. And this was one of those ascending upside break events where you could have gone max on platforms like BitMEX, which allows a great deal of leverage. There has been great Bitcoin accumulation in our community for recognizing the key events, and that is what a sniper does. Anyway, thank you to those who, because I even gave a number of people a heads up after the fact here, and they were quite happy as well. So it's all been entertaining what's been going down. Excellent. All right, guys, thank you for coming on. Bitcoin, in our opinion, should still have more, although it's going parabolic. There is scope for pullbacks. We don't have a crystal ball. All we have is a probability setup, but we're safe. We're locked in. We're deep in the green. If it has a pullback now, even in the middle of this voidy vacuum light volume area, we're okay with that because we've done really well, and we're happy to sit it out for our relative high too, or in the case that it's still to go parabolic and it has not yet done the scale of movements per day, but that is building. And remember that when they get that supremacy of parabola, that it can also be a warning of something else. Given that we have some history and we have a high to surpass, I wouldn't be intimidated before 20,000, but at some point in terms of that, you want to switch to your logarithmic chart and watch when you are getting percentage changes on a daily basis that are redefining what you're used to, and that will be the time to be a little bit more cautious and not lumping all in. There you can see on the left the degree of movement in percentage terms during that period. Okay, that's it, guys. See you at themarketsniper.com if you want to be a part of that key moment identification and how to exploit. And otherwise, hope you enjoy the YouTube and feel you've learned something, and we'll see you on the other side, hopefully for us, on the other side of 14,000 and continuing to move forward. But if not, we'll live with the outcomes that we've already been able to achieve so far. Bye for now. It's a bull market. Stay long.